Hello, folks. Welcome to my brain wreck. Um, as you all know, I have nocturnal seizures. For those that are subscribed to me, or if you're looking to subscribe to me and you came across this channel and wondering about epilepsy and nocturnal seizures and the seizure disorders in general, I just provide information on there. This is not for medical purposes or anything like that, and I just want to get that out there as a disclaimer. So I'm not a doctor or medical professional, as I said. This is for information purposes only. So if you need any medical information or purposes, stuff like that, I suggest that you do I just suggest you do your own research or talk to your doctors or your medical teams, whatever um, medical team you have. So as you all know, I want to, I, on my other videos, always say that there's a lack of funding for epilepsy and stuff and seizure disorders. And I just came across this article recently on the epilepsy.com, which is the main epilepsy foundation page for epilepsy. If you guys want to learn more about that, you can go to epilepsy.com, epilepsy.com. So after I'm done with this, loading this up, I'll put the article and stuff, and I'll just copy and paste and put I'll just put the website into the description. So this is from Tuesday, April 15th, 2025. And the headline says, Epilepsy Community Unites to Oppose Cuts to Federal Epilepsy Programs. So, what's that tell you? It tells you there's going to be cuts to programs, as we all know. Normally I don't talk about too much about political stuff like that, but obviously because this has to do with seizures and epilepsy, stuff like that, and this affects me and all of you that have seizure disorders or epilepsy, obviously, and do rely on some extra help and stuff that costs a lot of money. We all know that. So epilepsy and other diseases and seizure disorders cost to have certain tests done just to find out what's going on wrong with us. So I'm going to read this right here. I'm not going to say all. It says that 118 undersigned organizations representing people living with epilepsy, caregivers and loved ones, physicians, care providers, and epilepsy centers, epilepsy researchers, and others are united in opposition to recent actions by the administration and Congress to cut vital federal epilepsy programs. As the fourth most common neurological condition in the world, and with nearly 3.4 million Americans living with active epilepsy, you must be doing more, not less, to understand and treat epilepsy. Now, yeah, we do need to understand epilepsy and educate others about our epilepsy and how they need to feel, try to get them to understand why we feel the way we feel when we have our seizures and stuff like that, and why we're trying to get our point across, even though it's hard to sometimes because people are uneducated about epilepsy and people just don't know. I think it's just part of life, They're just there, another person with another different type of disease. And I'm not dismissing anybody's diseases or anything like that or medical conditions. Everybody has a certain medical condition that can affect them, and it's hard for other people to understand. So that's why people need to get educated about it. Develop cures, improve the quality of life for people with epilepsy, and increase the public awareness, as I just mentioned. So they're saying they urge policymakers to reverse these cuts and to ensure the fundamental epilepsy public health and research programs are maintained. It's very important for any research to be done for any type of seizure disorders or epilepsy or any other programs that for that fact, such as Parkinson's disease, diabetes, like myself, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke. Especially in African American women, they have a higher risk, and I believe it's heart disease, and strokes, I believe. So basically, beginning at the beginning of April, reductions in force notices were issued to staff within the CDC's, Center for Disease Control. It's the only public program related explicitly to epilepsy with national scope community programs that examine, test, and share strategies to improve the lives of people with epilepsy and their loved ones. So the program supports seizure recognition and first aid training. So they're going to cut that out. Seizure recognition and first aid training. How to recognize it and what to do when somebody's having a seizure. I'm not dismissing that it's not can't still be found or still be obtain from other places and things like that. But this is pretty critical for the Epilepsy Foundation because they do rely on government stuff and funding and stuff like that to help them out, so they can do that research and continue research and try to find how lessen, to make that epilepsy or seizure or disorders just to not be as much, and they can pinpoint what certain things can happen, how and why it happens and what it does. So, including for school personnel, also this happens. Research to better understand and the burden and risk factors of epilepsy, self-management, obviously, programs that improve the health and well-being of people with epilepsy, and Project Echo, so the epilepsy specialists can help primary care doctors in rural communities. So, like myself, I'm out in a rural area, you know. Granted, I do not live not too terribly far from the city, but far enough, you know. So, anyways, I'm just doing a little bit of this reading here for you. I'm telling you about it, but I'll put the description in the I'll put the description below the YouTube format there. So this is Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program, CDMRP. So in its final fiscal year 25 funding bill, Congress cut appropriations for the Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program by 57%. 57%. That's a lot of money. Don't ask me how much it is. I'm not quite sure. I'm sure it's in the millions. So this has completely eliminated specific funding for research related to Tuberous Sclerosis Complex, TSC, post-traumatic epilepsy, and traumatic brain injury, and psychological health. So that's quite a bit. That's pretty steep and pretty deep. That doesn't only mean that they're probably eliminate positions and stuff. It's going to eliminate funding for actually pinpointing things that could actually help somebody, or finding a specific drug maybe that would help, or pinpoint stuff. I understand a lot of our drugs come from China or India and stuff like that, or Mexico, but I believe we do have the resources here in America where we can do that stuff. Hopefully maybe that will come to here where we can do that. So obviously traumatic brain injury is a leading and specific form of injury in service people. All right, so people have been to war, veterans, PTSD they have. So especially those in combat and training environments, that can be led to post-traumatic epilepsy for 50% of those with severe TBIs, traumatic brain injuries. So, and then myself, I haven't had traumatic brain injuries. I have had, I'm sure some of you guys with epilepsy, I've had epilepsy, not epilepsy, excuse me. I've had a sepsis. I don't know if it was in my back or where, I can't remember, but I also had a swelling of the brain up here somewhere at one point in time. I seen something small there. I'm not sure it was from my seizures, from just, banging my head around and stuff like that. I'm not sure exactly. Not sure that's where it came from, but they don't know for sure really right now. But, so for many of these years, these research programs have funded cutting-edge research to better understand and address these neurological conditions, that can affect service members, veterans, and their families. So they want to So these cuts, they wanted to be restored to continue progress in epilepsy research. So, don't know how that's going to happen, how they're going to be able to do it, whatever. I'm sure they're going to try to get a bill, obviously, or somehow. You can actually write your own bill, believe it or not. That's me for me. But you can write your own bill and stuff, but you have to do a lot of your research stuff. You have to have a lot of signatures. So yes, granted that our government is the one that writes the bills, but you can write your own bill, or you can get a grant for something. You can write your own grant, write what you outline your own grant. And I know that'd be probably very hard in this day and time to get it approved, or if it, you got to lobby it. You got to find maybe a person who's lobbyist it and stuff like that, if they're willing to do that. Young kids that are very political and stuff, they're willing to do things like that. Go out there and lobby it. It means a lot to them, and it means a lot to them when they get something passed or whatever. So, the NIH, National Institutes of Health, and National Institute of Neurologic Disorders and Stroke, or NINDS, So basically now, so within the NIH, several institutes have funded epilepsy-related research, which has helped better understand, diagnose, and treat epilepsy. All right, according to the article over here from epilepsy.com. Most notably, the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke. In the past several weeks, nearly 300% of the NINS staff have been impacted by RIFs. All right, so research and funding, basically, including people dedicated to epilepsy. So beyond loss of expertise, we also understand that there will be significant cuts due to both funding, opportunities, and contracts. So obviously there are contracts between the government and research, stuff like that. And these things, the way these things are written, are so detailed and crazy. They have so, if you guys ever seen contract, if you guys ever go sign a contract with a car or whatever, you're trying to rent a car or whatever, at least to buy or whatever, highly suggest to read it, because there's a lot of stuff in there that some people just don't read. So it's crazy. So they're extremely concerned about the impact of the cuts on the current and future epilepsy research and activities. They are impending our shared goal of curing epilepsy, obviously. As for, because of this, so this was a advisory committee on heritable disorders, newborns, and children. All right, you heard that, children. All right, so it was terminated in early April. For more than 20 years, the committee has governed the recommended uniform screening panel, RUSP, which helps to ensure the newborns have access to screening, diagnosis, and intervention for serious medical conditions. Some conditions on the RUSP, those can cause seizures, and there are many other rate disorders, obviously just besides epilepsy and seizure disorders, but other things too. And epilepsy in infants and children that could be added. So they're concerned about the impact the dissolution of the ACHDNC will have on infants, children, and their caregivers in the rare epilepsy community. All right? The rare epilepsy community is saying. So the dissolution of this community completely terminates any possibility of enhancement. Pretty sad. Could be lots of lives lost because of this. None of us want that. So the dissolution of this completely terminates any possibility of enhancement, expansion, and improvement of the U.S.'s ability to reduce preventable suffering and deaths of infants. So they want to be they urge that it be reinstated as soon as possible. If the funding shall be reinstated, funding be reinstated as soon as possible. As I said, sometimes my words get mixed up, word salad, but eventually I'll get them out. So what would happen? Basically, it's preventing halt progress, preventing diagnosing, treating, curing, and managing epilepsy for young ones, and not just the young ones, and babies and adults and seniors too. Like I said, I'm not dismissing Alzheimer's, dementia, strokes, or anything else. Those are very important to have funding also. But since I have nocturnal seizures, and I've been just diagnosed with a seizure disorder, so that's kind of hits home to me a little bit. It's to me because of my diagnosis. So these changes are happening at a time when many other significant threats are looming for people with epilepsy and their families, including possible cuts to Medicaid and the possible dismantling of the U.S. Department of Education, which I think it was already a sign that it was, not for sure. So about 40% of people with epilepsy rely on Medicaid to access their health care and long-term services and supports. Meanwhile, the U.S. Department of Education is vital to ensuring that the rights of students with disabilities are protected and enforced. All right? And of course, epilepsy looks different for each person, which is true. Epilepsy can come in many different types of forms and stuff like that. There are many types of seizures and syndromes, and epilepsy affects people throughout their lifespan with various causes and associations. Most importantly, delayed recognition and inadequate treatment increases a person's risk of seizures, brain damage, and nocturnal seizures can be one, or just not just nocturnal seizures, but any type of damage, because our seizures happen up here and affects the brain. Disability and death. I see that's an unexplained death in epilepsy. Prognosis, epilepsy. So, epilepsy and or seizures impose an annual economic health care burden of $54 billion in the U.S. This is why epilepsy and research and programs are critical to the public health and economic health of our nation. So, so the epilepsy community is devastated by these cuts, and that they need to take action now. They're calling on policymakers to restore the funding and staffing for these vital programs. So, as I said, they cut 57% of the funding to this vital program. I mean, they have to get rid of people, researchers, other people, contractors and stuff like that. Sometimes more than likely probably give them like a payout or something, or a severance package or something small, whatever. But sometimes a lot of this means a lot of people, to their heart, some people want to help out and do what they can. So it hurts them. Not only hurts them, it hurts us, like ourselves, that have epilepsy or seizure disorders or any type of disorders or anything like that from this funding. So they call on the policymakers to restore funding and staffing for these vital programs. All right. So, like I said, I'll leave the put the article into the description here. So I hope you purple warriors have a great day, and be safe and stay seizure free for at least one day or for the rest of your lives. This is all vital information that I think we all need to know. And like I said, I'll put this into the I'll just copy and paste not copy and paste the article, but I'll copy and paste the HTML up here. And you guys can just do that and copy and paste it to your address bar and look at it that way. This article was written by please forgive me. The Chief Advocate Government Relations Officer for the Epilepsy Foundation at Laura Widener. She's the Chief Advocate and Government Relations Officer for the Epilepsy Foundation. Okay, or Johanna Gray, Deputy Director of the National Epilepsy Centers at the. So if you have any questions and stuff, you can contact them. I hope this helps you guys out, and you guys are aware of this. So it's sad. 57%. Very, very scary. Don't know why they did that or why, but I understand why to a certain degree. Yes, they're trying to cut stuff here and there and try to make things better, and I guess they're trying to make more money and cut the budget deficit for America. But anyways, guys, this is my brain wreck. I hope you guys have a great day and have a seizure-free day. Be strong, Purple Warriors.